Record. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is week 6, day 2. It is a Tuesday, and let's talk about what we reviewed yesterday. Last week, we had characters that would go along these different points here in a patrol path, and we created a new one called the Wanderer that will, let me do one thing real quick here. Turn that off. Okay, compile and save. We created a new AI called the Wanderer who does not follow a path, but rather picks a point in our map, in our navigation mesh, and goes there. And then we'll kind of wait and hang around a little bit and then go to another place. So let's take a look at how this character moves around. So the ones with the pink heads are following their patrol paths, those cones. But this AI is doing its own thing. It's finding a random place on the map. It's going there, and then it'll wait a number of seconds before it goes to its next point. Okay, so close that down. And if we look into the blueprint we created a couple of variables for the random reach in point and radius. Or actually, I should say, and I didn't save, but the biggest thing here was we wanted to have it wait, but not wait a predictable number of seconds. And the way that we did that was by dragging this out and doing float in range, random float in range. And that gives us the ability to say, okay, on your when your patrol's done, wait anywhere between 0 and 5 seconds. So that makes the AI a little more challenging, and because we don't know, we can't just watch it and when it stops, say, okay, we know it's going to stop for 2 seconds, and then we can kind of base our movement around that. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to create a hide and go seek little game using this AI that we created yesterday, the Wanderer. And since we did this late in the session, I'm going to go through it again, creating the new map. So let's go to File, New Level, and we're going to pick a basic level, which will give us a small playing area and some nice sky and lighting features. And I'm immediately, after it creates this, I'm going to go to File, Save Current Level As, and in my Levels folder, I'm going to call this Hide Seek. Okay. And if you press play, like we did, and change this here, we should just be able to run around. All right. Since we're going to have AI in our level, AI needs to have a nav mesh, which we've talked a lot about this week and last week. And that is the area on the map that the AI is allowed to do things in. If it goes outside of that nav mesh, it will just stop and it will not do anything. So the way that we do that is we go to this cube with the green plus button, and we go to volumes, nav mesh bounds volume, and right here it's tiny. If we press P, we can see it'll light up the area that our AI could do things like walk around in. But obviously this is very small. We want it to be able to walk around this entire floor here. So we'll just center it by clicking the reset, the location, and that'll put it right in the center at the 0, 0, 0 mark. And then we can grab our scale tool and just, doesn't have to be perfectly the size of the map, just kind of close to it. There's that and that. Okay, and let's look at like the Z, which is how much up in the air. It's always good to have a little bit doesn't have to be too much unless you have a flying character. So if you had AI, like we mentioned before, and they're up here out of the nav zone, they would just kind of stop flying and fall to the ground. All right, let's save up that. We can turn our NavMesh bounds volume data off. We know that it's covering this whole area, so we'll just press P as in Paul again. All right, and let's grab in our blueprints folder our AI Wanderer, drag them into the level, and then let's press play and ensure that yeah, they're doing the same thing. They're just kind of wandering around the map. All right. Now, another thing that we did was we wanted to be able to see where the eyes were for our AI character. And we know that this arrow shows what way they're facing. But since this model that I've built is all one color, we can't really tell when we're playing the game. So what we did was simply go to add a cube, and we'll scale it a little bit to make it like a little VR headset. Bring it up here. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We just need a visual indicator of where the AI's eyes are as we play the level. So that looks good to me. I'll change it to a red to make it sinister looking. And now if I compile, save that again, and we press play, we should be able to see the characters facing. So there's his headset. So now he's headed off that way. Okay. And another thing we did, and again, you don't have to do this, but we're going to play, like I said, hide and seek. So let's throw a couple of walls in the game. We'll again go to our plus and add a shape. We'll just pick a cube. We will press the end key on the keyboard. Yeah, there we go, to drop it down. I had a class where I was telling a student for weeks on end to use the end key to drop it to the floor, and they said it never works. It ended up he was using the N as in Nancy key. Okay, so we'll get a wall here, and then as you remember, we can just use the Alt to kind of quickly get us some geometry here. Alt, hold, move, and Alt there. And we'll do a couple more. All right. And now if you're following along with, well, even if you're watching the video, you're following along. Let's put our AI guy, let's give ourselves a fair head start. So let's take him and kind of put him over here behind one of these walls, so he doesn't immediately see us. I'll press F again. I can zoom in on him, and I'm just going to turn him around a little bit so he's kind of looking off in the distance there. All right. Let's save, and now we're going to look at a very important component called pawn sensing. And that gives this AI the ability to see things in a game level, and specifically lets them see our character. So open your blueprint, and we're going to go to the viewport here. Same place we have our little red eyes and our head and our body. And we're going to click a new component. And what we've done before, if you remember, we've clicked add and we've added a cube. We added a sphere over here. This is going to be a component called pawn sensing. And when you click on that and add it, you're going to see all this kind of stuff here that looks a little overwhelming at first, but I'm going to walk you through exactly what this is. If you'll recall, yesterday we talked about how in real life we can't see behind us, right? We don't have eyes in the back of our heads. We can only see in what's on our peripheral vision and then what's in front of us. And although technically, I think it's 90 degrees, I think it's more like a cone, sort of. And so what we need to do is we need to set this to show what this character can see. And before we get into anything, to make it a little easier for you guys to visualize this, make sure that you have your pawn sensing selected so that you see details similar to this over here. And since we're not going to be using hearing, we remember we talked about the characters, the AI can hear in the game. Let's set hearing threshold to 0. And let's say line of sight hearing threshold to 0. Okay, and if you notice, that has removed some of these lines here. Now here is where the magic happens. Let's take this peripheral vision angle and start to reduce this down. So what I'll do is I'll click here and start to drag it over this way. Okay, so do you see what happened here? This is what our character can see, this cone of vision here. Does that make sense? So there's two things we're going to do. We start with the peripheral vision angle. And I think for humans, it's kind of like 80%, but most game AI will set it more like around 65% or even lower, depending on how adept at sensing your AI or not. And in fact, some games will have kind of like basic AI guards that will have this real narrow of what they can see, but then maybe like a boss AI will have a broader sense and can see a lot further and at a lot different angles. The second thing, aside from, I'll just set this to an even number like 50, is the distance that the AI can see. So the sight radius, I'll zoom out here, as we reduce this, this is like, okay, the character, the AI can only see what's maybe 10 feet in front of him. Okay, so we're going to increase that. Actually, we'll reset it back to here. All right, so our AI can now sense things, and that is really cool. Now, if we go over here, let me just do this again. We'll select our pawn sensing. I'll go up to the top here. We're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and we have events. And remember, we talked about also hearing, so we're not going to use that. We want to know when our AI sees a pawn. We want to add an event. So we'll click right here on See Pawn, and that'll take us into our event graph for our AI. And as you probably guessed, if we zoomed out a little bit, you would see all this stuff here that we have already built. And here's the stuff we did when we were doing the patrol points. So this is just adding it to our code that we already have. Okay. And now let's say on pawn sensing, let's do a print screen. Print string, my bad. And let's just say, I see you. All right. Let's compile, save. And now let's go test that out in our game. I'm going to dock this, go over here, and I'm just going to try to run up to, oh, he already saw me. So if you look in the upper left-hand screen, you can see that as I come into the field of view of this AI, it's going to say, I see you. So let's see how far he turns. But goes that way, so he can't see me, right? Because I'm behind him. But as soon as I get in front, I see you. Okay. So let's recap that. When we have this, we added the pawn sensing. I'll go back to the viewport. And this gives our AI the ability to see pawns, which are basically characters in our game. And we can adjust and in fact, I'm going to reduce that a little bit, and I'm going to reduce the sight radius. So the big things for the pawn sensing are the sight radius and the peripheral vision angle. And another thing here that we're not going to talk about, but which is important, is the sensing interval. So with all things in Unreal Engine, if you roll over this, it'll give you a tooltip. So this means how long between the sensing updates is it? And right now it's doing it every half second. So if you wanted a character that had like supersonic sensing abilities, you might set this to 0.01 and that they always are sensing. But this gives our AI a little bit of a, okay, I forget what I saw and I'm moving on again. All right, cool. Now that's a lot of fun, but wouldn't it be really fun if we were able to have our AI chase us once it sees us? Because right now, as we've seen, when it's, where you see over here, yeah, he sees us like, yeah, I see you. Okay, I'm just gonna keep doing my thing. But what if it started chasing us and we actually had to hide? See how far we could hide, how long we could hide behind the walls so it wouldn't see us. So let's add that. And that's going to be another kind of AI move too. So we've had the AI move to patrol points. And then we also had the AI move to a random spot in our level. Now let's have it move directly to our character. So back in our event graph, we have on pawn sensing, I see you. Let's drag out another AI move to, and I'll compile and save that. And just as a refresher, we could have also just gone here and copied that and pasted it down here. Just always want to give you guys different ways of how you can get these nodes here. All right. And the target actor gonna be our player, right? So we need to tell it where to move to. We're not using a destination like we did in our get random reachable. It's like, okay, get an XYZ coordinate in our nav mesh and move there. This is going to be, we want to move to an actor, which is going to be our player. So let's pull out of here and let's type get, oops, get player pawn. And I'm sorry that looks like the glitched out a little bit. And for the video, I want you to be able to see that. So let me try it again. Okay, get player pawn. And it's this one right here. And again, this returns the pawn for the player controller of the game. So it's basically get the player. All right. Let's move that over here. Compile, save. And let's see what kind of shenanigans happen. And I'll actually load this into a new editor window. Okay, he's already sees me. But he didn't move to me, did he? So we're not quite there yet, obviously. He is seeing us, but he's not moving to us. So let's go back and take a look at our spreadsheet here, or not spreadsheet, our blueprint. And on the pawn sensing ICU, we told it where to go to, right? Say go to the player, but we didn't tell it who to move to. So let's go back up here to some of the other ones we've done. And this is why it's always good, I think, to reference some of the previous work that you've done and tested. So we see this AI move to has a pawn. And this is getting a little messy, my apologies. It's getting a reference to self in addition to a target actor. Okay. And then this AI move to, it is also getting a reference to self. So let's look at our one we just added. Where is it? Oh, where'd it go? Oh, it's right down here. AI move to, okay, so we don't have a reference to tell it what should be moving to our player. And obviously, since we're inside the AI Wanderer blueprint, we want to say we want this blueprint, this cube, this thing, our character. So all we got to do here is get a reference to self. All right, and let's compile and save that. I still think my guy can see a little too far, so I'm gonna reduce this down to even more, like maybe 2000. All right, compile and save. And now let's test it out. Okay, where is he's over there, right? Oh. Ah! Remember his sensing interval is half a second. So if I lose sight of him for half a second, he's gonna go back and do whatever he was doing. But he's really good. And again, this is where getting into testing with AI is so important to balance these things. So I want to make this a little more of a challenge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some more walls here. I'm just going to duplicate a few more of these and then rotate them. So we'll do that and then we'll rotate. And then now I'll make a couple copies of this. Maybe it makes it a little easier for me to lose him. Wow. Okay. And we'll move this over here. All right.
I like how it does the Tron 90-degree turns.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's got an unfair advantage and he's a little fast too. So, so here's a couple things that we could do to make our challenge a little less challenging. One is we go to his character movement component. Remember, so pawn sensing component is sensing other characters. The character movement gives our character the ability to move. So let's go to his max walk speed. And I'm going to change that to 300. Make him slow down a little bit. Okay, go to save all. Let's test this out again. Okay, there, right in front of him. And he's got a little, there he goes. Now he's going to move towards me. Oh, and he still sees me, but I have a speed boost because remember we did a speed boost. Okay, so I lost him there. Yep, and there he found me again. So what you would do is you would play around with these values and make it so he doesn't see me there, but I can see him because of my camera. So if he might turn around when he stops. Oh, I'm at the corner. He doesn't see. Why don't you go the other way? Turn around. Oh, I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he got stuck on that corner. Give him a little bump. Ooh. Okay. So for AI, the way that we could tweak this is the walking speed. Like Mike said, we could maybe make it so he can't turn on a dime. There's a little bit of a finesse to making a sharp turn. In our pawn sensing, which we learned about today, we can decrease the sight radius so that it can only see like what is literally right in front of him. The sensing interval, which we talked about, is the time between sensing updates. So if we set this to a higher value, that means I believe, I might be wrong on this, but this would make the AI forget things faster, right? Because it senses on an interval. Um, okay. And then again, this is the cone that we have here. And one more thing we can do before we finish up for tonight or this afternoon is let's go back to our level, our soccer level. And now we have this one in here. If you don't, just drag it in, your wanderer. And let's go back to our original. I'm going to rotate him a little bit. Okay. Oh, this is good because you can actually see in game how far they can see. That I believe is because I hit the G key. So the G turns all these overlays on and off. Okay. G as in Gary. So let's try out. Let's see if we can score a goal now that we got people chasing us. Good. He can't see me. Yikes. Ah. Oh my gosh, I missed all of them. I think I made the AIs a little too dumb because they only will look at you if you are literally right in front of them. All right, so now he's chasing me. And we made him so slow that it's easy to escape. All right, cool. So that is pawn sensing and making AI chase after the character. And so to recap, we have created AI that will move to different patrol points in a map, in a level. We have made AI that will pick a random spot in the level and go there and wait, and then pick another random spot and just keep going back and forth. And we have created a AI that will look for the player using the pawn sensing component, and then will also chase the player once they are in their sight. All right, I will end it here. Get my zoom back up wherever it's hiding. There it is. Okay. All right, any questions? Thanks everybody for coming. Um, I will see you all tomorrow, and I'll also have our video posted tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
See ya. See
Bye.
ya. Bye.
Bye.